Many aspiring chess players study chess openings and crazy middle game ideas. However, they forget about the fundamentals in chess endgames, which are very important. In today's video, I will show you 3 most important endgame drills that you need to master before you approach 2000 rating. Let's go. Okay, so I will start with the basics that I think I actually studied on one of my first chess lessons with my coach 12 years ago, which is leading a free pawn and the concept of opposition that I will show you in a minute. So, first of all, how would you approach this position? Would you just push the pawn, or would you first maybe try to push the king forward, and why? Well, let me explain to you now. I have a very simple rule read in Dworecki's endgame manual, and basically you need to control c6, d6 or e6, 3 squares on the 6th rank close to the pawn, right here as you can see, with your king in order to be able to promote your pawn. So, most beginners will make the same mistake, which is pushing the pawn forward. Unfortunately, this is not a good option, because let's say we now try to defend the king, play king to d3 and king to c4. I'm playing against the computer here. Right now, we are in a drawn position, because we cannot control the 6th, d6 or e6 square without pushing the pawn first. We need to make sure that we have advanced the king first, and later we have d6 reserved to out-tempo the king, basically forcing the king out of a very important square in order to win. Okay, let me now take back every move and show you the correct and show you the correct approach. So you need to push your king, because it needs to control the path of the pawn, right? You can play king to d4, which makes the most sense, because you can either go king to c5 or king to e5. And you know what? The computer did not play the most challenging move. Unfortunately, computers don't know what is the most challenging and most difficult for humans to play. After king to d6, I wouldn't be able to go to king to c5 or king to e5. However, I haven't pushed my pawn, which I told you about. And I have a reserve tempo, forcing the king to move in one or different direction. So unfortunately, the computer didn't want you to show me the concept of opposition before, but now it will. So after king to d7, this is called opposition, when kings are facing each other, and in this type of situation, the person that is on the move is in trouble, and the reason why is because, well, this king wants to go here, and this king is defending here and here. However, it has a move, right? It needs to make a move, so it moves here, and then I can simply push to e6. Now that I have controlled one of those squares, I know that I have won the chess game. So now I just push my pawn, because as you can see, all the pawns, almost all the squares are defended now. I could try to control this square already and say, oh, I have the entire path ready. However, look at this, king to c6. So that's why we need to move back. I just showed you that you need to watch out, because if you push your king too much forward, then black will actually just capture your pawn. So that's why we push to d5, and you might say, no, the king is getting in front of the pawn. Yes, but that's the thing, we haven't advanced the pawn to d6. So thanks to that, we can again use the concept of opposition, and now we were fighting for c7 or e7 square, which defends 3 squares of promotion, and we got the square. After this, we simply push, Wow, the computer doesn't want to lose. It literally takes a few seconds to make a move. And then you win with a queen. I suppose you can do it by now. So guys, remember, the king goes first. Number 2, the concept of opposition. And this doesn't apply only to a one pawn endgame. It applies to literally everything. Whenever you have two weaknesses on king's side, you need to create opposition situation where the king needs to choose between the defending one or another. Alright, let's go into another chapter. Okay guys, the second concept that people really underestimate and don't know about, but actually it even applies to middle games. I recently got destroyed by a breakthrough. Is breakthrough. I've said it. So what would you play here, guys? Because if you just decided to listen to the rule that your king needs to be active, then well, you would end up in a drawn position because well, you can't really progress here. The king is defending everything close to the pawns. This is a draw. Okay, so what would you do? Well, the thing is, if you have at least 3 pawns, you can even create a breakthrough with 2 pawns. However, one of them needs to already be at a contact with another pawn. So whenever the pawns are very close to each other, then you can create a breakthrough. But let's focus on the basic one first. So, what is happening? Well, the king is very far away, right? That's the important detail. Whenever you have a breakthrough and you want to somehow promote the pawn, you need to make sure that the king is not in the square of the pawn, meaning the king cannot catch the pawn. Okay, so what happens here? Well, let's just exhaust the variations here. What happens after a6? Well, b6. And there is literally no issue at all. What happens after c6? Well, chess is symmetrical. We know that it's just gonna be b6 again. But what happens after white b6? What? Black, if they are 1200 rated, are gonna say, well, I might win this game now. But here comes the problem. If they take with this pawn, they basically have to take the pawn, because if they move this or this, I will take this or this. So, he takes here, and what happens now? Because, well, if I take, he pushes, he even takes this, and you know what? He might actually be winning this game, I'm not sure. But, you know what? Let's focus on white winning. So what happens after he takes, right? This pawn looks almost 3, but it isn't, unless you play pawn to a6. Because now, after b takes a, which is forced, because otherwise I will just take your pawn, white is able to push, and even with those 3 pawns here, white just promotes the queen and wins the game. Okay, but you're gonna tell me, hey, you know what, I've seen this on YouTube, this is a very basic position. Okay, I can show you that this actually works in a real chess game. And look at this. This was a game between grandmasters, and I think they agreed to a draw. However, black was, or maybe black even surrendered. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. It looks like white is losing. Black is losing. White will take 1 pawn, then another, and yeah, looks like black is in huge trouble. However, here comes g5. Wow, what a move, right? It's just nonchalant because the white king is here on the side of the chessboard. But what is happening right there? 4 pawns, 2 of them are under attack, and let's break this down. Actually, I won't have to break down all the variations because the structure is symmetrical. So whatever happens here after e takes f is gonna happen after h takes g. Okay, So after e takes f, what is going on? You can count this position as there is this pawn and this pawn counters it. Okay, there is this pawn and this pawn counters it and this pawn counters it. This pawn is kind of worthless in the breakthrough scenario at this point because it's not blocking any of the pawns. Okay, so we need to create a situation where you have two pawns challenging one pawn. And you know what? Here it is. Because you can play g4 and forcing the pawn on the f file to take or even push, allowing the black pawn to simply go forward. So guys, this is a very advanced concept, but you should study it. I really recommend Dworecki's Endgame manual, or just Google breakthroughs because they are very, very important. You might think that your king is active and everything is amazing. However, well, this is a pawn endgame. You can always play with pawns as well. And that's what you have to remember. Okay, let's get into the last and maybe the most important part of chess endgames. Okay guys, and the last, maybe even one of the most important truths in chess endgame is cutting your opponent's king with your rook. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's ask each other a question. What is black trying to achieve? Well, black wants to push the pawn, so let them do it, right? King to c6, and well, it's not looking great for black. Why? Because in order to succeed in the pushing of the pawn, the black king needs to help, but it just can't. And you know what? Black king will never be able to actually get out of this rank. It will only be able to stay on this side of the chessboard. Okay, but the pawn pushes and oh no, the rook is busy catching the pawn. They could be blocking the king, but the pawn is running away. Well, just play king to d6 for example, and after h3, because the king is so far away, there's rook to a3, rook to h3, and the pawn is caught. Okay, so what would happen if I actually let the king go and gave a check? Well, this goes, and you know what? Changes dramatically. Now the position is 0.00. This is a draw. And you might think, but there's the king. There's just not enough time. The king, black's king, is shouldering, so defending the squares close to the pawn. So the white king will have trouble approaching the pawn. And the rook is just not enough to stop it. Now the rook just is too busy. The rook cannot just cut off the king because it won't have time to catch the pawn later on. And if the rook just decides to catch the pawn, well, then you push. What can you do now? Rook to g1, well, king to f3 even works. Let's say king to c6, you push. I don't know even what would you do. King to d5, h3 here, and king to g2. This is a draw. So guys, cutting your opponent off. Okay, let me show you another example, because this applies in rook versus pawn endgames. This applies in rook and a pawn against rooks. So here, this is my game against grandmaster Evandro Barbosa. He was number 5 in the world in Rapid on chess.com, and I successfully blocked his king and never allowed the king to actually be able to defend the squares of promotion of my pawns. So what happens is I played king to h4, h6. I simply just had a 2 pawns and a king against 1 rook, which was just not enough for him to be able to draw. This also applies to rook and a pawn against a rook endgame. So what is happening here? Well, white is trying to push the pawn. However, they cannot really do it because, well, the king cannot help. There's only rook, against the king, which is just not enough to win. The rook can keep checking the king, however nothing will happen. Okay, so the king will never be able to push unless it tries to go to e6, and then the king is smart enough to block the rook from the attack. Okay, so what happens here? Whenever they push pawn to e6, you try to go rook to a1. And now, if the rook wants to give you checks, it does, and nothing happens. If the king is annoying and threatens you checkmate, you keep checking. Oh my gosh. You keep checking. If the king goes here, you keep checking. And you basically keep checking wherever the king is. And when it gets too annoyed, you simply attack the pawn and take it. So guys, remember, if you are a pawn up in a pawn endgame, you should win it, usually by concept of opposition. Number 2, if your king is not active in a pawn endgame, but you know what, there is many pawns, and it looks like you might break through, you should try it. It's very difficult to analyze everything and very risky if you just manage to sacrifice 3 pawns and then find out that there is no there is no promotion, you will be in huge trouble. And number 3, cutting your opponent off with your rook in rook versus rook and a pawn, rook and a pawn versus rook, or rook versus pawn endgames. Thank you for 600 subscribers, by the way. You could join my Discord server as well, and thank you. Bye.